Welcome to this edition of Jamaica Magazine. On the show today, recent developments in the office of the Prime Minister. Plus, there are major plans to advance science, energy and technology within this fiscal year. I'm Theodore Henry. Stay with us. Those features and more are right after the news package.
Have you been a victim of sexual assault? Have you been raped? It doesn't matter if you're a boy, girl, man or woman. There's a team of personnel willing and capable to assist you on the path to justice. The Victim Services Division. They provide support of all kinds, such as free, confidential counseling and assistance to attend court. You may not forget the ordeal, but the healing process will be easier. In any 1 year, more than 10,000 people get assistance. Don't hang your head in shame. Being a victim of a sex crime is not your fault. Contact the Victim Services Division. They're based at 47E Old Hope Road, Kingston 5. Good day, I'm Lorraine Mendez, and this is your JIS News for Tuesday, May 30. Prime Minister Andrew Holness has instructed the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation to begin early discussions for a new contract with Food for the Poor. Mr. Holness shared his decision during a meeting with representatives of the Jamaican arm of the charitable organization. He said government valued and fully supported its partnership with Food for the Poor, which has been able to provide houses below market rate at no cost to needy Jamaicans. The Prime Minister also underscored the importance of giving more Jamaicans access to housing.
Changing the housing situation also changes social situation, attitude as well. So the value of the partnership between government and Food for the Poor, provision of housing, is very important, I would say invaluable, and has contributed significantly to improving housing conditions in Jamaica. As a partnership we should seek to continue.
The Prime Minister, meanwhile, committed to meeting with members of Parliament to determine and address any issues they may face under the execution of projects with Food for the Poor.
Of course, in any partnership there will always be some issues, but I'm certain we have the capacity to resolve them.
Devon House has officially been declared as the first gastronomy center of Jamaica. Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett says the site will now formally assist in the marketing of the country as a food destination.
We selected Devon House to be the start, not only because it is unique in its own offerings, not only because it represents a piece of our history, a part of our heritage, and a cornerstone of the elegance that characterized a certain period within our history. But we also selected Devon House because it's in the center of commerce and entertainment and culture in the Caribbean, the city of Kingston.
Devon House, which is world-renowned for its ice cream, offers several restaurants and bars. The marketing of the venue as a food tourism epicenter is a growth strategy of the Gastronomy Network, launched last year by the ministry. Over the next 3 to 5 years, government will be implementing several strategies to protect Jamaica's wetlands. That announcement comes from Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Darrell Vaz.
These wetlands, like so many other natural resources, have enormous potential, and we have set the framework for their sustainable use.
The minister was addressing Monday's opening of the World Heritage and Climate Change Symposium in Kingston. Jamaica is ranked 5th among islands around the world in terms of endemic plant life and is home to several wetlands, 4 of which are recognized under the Ramsar Convention on Wetland. Minister Vaz says efforts to protect them will include the implementation of a national strategy for biodiversity conservation and completion of the protected areas legislation and policy. In addition, he says government will seek to complete the national biosafety policy and develop and implement the coastal response strategy.
We have prepared, with the support of the World Bank, the national guidelines on coastal management and beach restoration. This document, along with the Coastal Risk Atlas to be developed this year, will be used to support and inform decisions with respect to developments within coastal areas.
And finally, there are signs that local supply of crops washed out by recent heavy rains should rebound within another 2 months. That's according to the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture and Fisheries, Donovan Stanbury.
I can tell you that farmers have already started to cut back and to go back in the fields and to plant again. And even though we face a temporary setback, we don't know the estimate of damage fully yet. We are still computing the figures. But one can rest assured that within 6 to 8 weeks, we will have again an abundance of vegetables and so on.
Mr. Stanbury was praising the resilience of Jamaican farmers as he participated in a tour of 2 agri-processing facilities in St. Mary and Portland. The Jamaica Social Investment Fund pumped more than $30 million in the facilities through the World Bank-funded Rural Economic Development Initiative. JSIF says the St. Mary multipurpose cold chain supply and post-harvest facility has resulted in post-harvest losses dropping from 30% to 6%. The cocoa drying facility in Spring Garden, Portland has contributed to the resurgence of the Jamaican cocoa industry, impacting 225 farmers in St. Mary, Portland, and St. Thomas. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Lorraine Mendez. Thanks for watching.
I'm deeply concerned by the number of Jamaicans killed on our roads. Safety on our roads is our responsibility. Jamaicans, drivers, passengers, motorcyclists, and pedestrians, slow down. Observe the rules of the road. Be courteous. Drive defensively. Be considerate. Buckle up. Wear a helmet. The careless overtaker is only rushing to the undertaker. Not observing the rules of the road could cost you your life and that of your loved ones. I encourage all road users to take special care as we use public thoroughfares. The life you save may be your own. Remember, your family wants you to arrive alive.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness had a busy last week, tackling everything from cultural preservation to cybersecurity, ease of travel between Jamaica and its partners, and more. We have the details.
On today's edition of Jamaica House Weekly, Jamaica signs communique and visa waiver agreement with the Dominican Republic, policy coming to redefine the role of the Jamaica Constabulary Force, and
on this Labor Day, workers can have confidence that they have a bright future and that things are aligning in their interest.
Though Prime Minister Andrew Holness's recent official visit to the Dominican Republic was cut short due to flooding at home, the 2 days spent were quite productive. On the May 15 and 16 assignment, Mr. Holness brokered a visa waiver agreement which will facilitate easier travel for diplomatic and official passport holders of the 2 countries. A communique was also signed which covers travel, tourism, commerce, education and agriculture. And a multi-destination tourism framework arrangement was agreed to and is expected to be finalized within a few months. During the visit, Prime Minister Holness and President Danilo Medina, through their foreign affairs ministers, solidified plans to establish a joint business and investment council. The body is expected to increase business and trade relations in the private and public sectors of the 2 countries. And during a courtesy call, the leaders agreed to share expertise in developing social programs in the housing sector through a public-private partnership model. Interest was also expressed in the promotion of Spanish and English language training.
Let us go out into our communities today and display that spirit of volunteerism that Jamaica needs. Plant a tree, refurbish a building, help to preserve a monument, help your neighbors to clean up from the recent floods. See what needs to be done and give a helping hand.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness's rallying call as the island observed National Labour Day on May 23 under the theme Restore, Preserve, Beautify. The Prime Minister used his Labor Day message to reassure Jamaicans of the government's economic initiatives, which continue to advance the welfare of workers and improve citizens' standard of living. He confirmed that 22,000 more people were employed in January when compared to the same time last year, and said even more opportunities were being pursued under the HOPE program, which targets 15,000 unattached at-risk young people. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister led by example on Labor Day, taking part in several projects. He said the rehabilitation of the Ward Theatre, one of 2 national projects, was a priority for government.
We cannot allow this monument of our culture, this storage of our value, which we call our heritage, to be destroyed.
$70 million has been earmarked to get the Ward Theatre operational by August. Over at the second national project, the Central Police Station, Mr. Holness said government was developing a policy aimed at redefining the Jamaica Constabulary Force as a protection and service organization. That policy is expected to be in place by November this year.
That will become the launching pad for a discussion about what should our new Jamaica Protection and Service Institution be. What should our new law enforcement institution be?
Prime Minister Holness continued his Labor Day in his constituency, helping to build a house for an elderly man. And earlier in the day, he welcomed a donation of 3,000 bags of cement to assist in recovery efforts from recent flood rains. The donation came from Carib Cement Company Limited, and the product will be distributed by the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management. When news came that explosions killed 22 persons and injured scores more at the Manchester Arena in the United Kingdom, Prime Minister Andrew Holness pledged to support the fight against terrorism. In a letter to British Prime Minister Theresa May on Tuesday, Mr. Holness expressed condolences to the families and friends of those killed. He also commended city officials and the people of Manchester who displayed great selflessness and generosity of spirit in the face of danger. Jamaica's cybersecurity was a priority for Prime Minister Andrew Holness on Thursday as he chaired another meeting of the National Security Council. Coming out of that meeting, which heard from the Computer Incident Response Team, Mr. Holness said he would be bringing cybersecurity issues to Cabinet. The aim, he said, was to ensure that resources were allocated to increase the country's capacity to deal with cybersecurity threats. During the meeting, the council was told that in 2016, Jamaica lost $100 million to cyber criminal activity. And the Office of the Prime Minister has reassured the nation that the new sand mining operation at Duncan's Bay in Trelawney is above board. While addressing concerns raised about the granting of a permit to mine beach sand, the OPM expressed confidence that all the necessary protocols were observed to protect citizens and the environment. A statement from the Office of the Prime Minister asserts that the permit was approved based on the legal and technical advice given by the Municipal Corporation, the University of the West Indies Mines and Geology Unit, and NEPA. The release further states that the Duncan's Bay Development Company is operating under strict conditions, including not carrying out mining and quarrying operations during the June to November peak season for sea turtles. Other conditions are that no sand should be removed from the foreshore of the property and that the company shall inform the local Citizens Association and NEPA of the schedule of mining activity. And that's how we close out Jamaica House Weekly. We return next time with more of the news stories coming out of the Office of the Prime Minister.
Jamaicans from all walks of life, we must save energy and help the Jamaican economy. Energy saving, we say. To that. Hey. Ease up on the energy, save today, protect tomorrow. Ease up on the energy, save today, protect tomorrow. Energy saving is not a maybe, it's a must.
The Ministry of Science, Energy and Technology is amending the Data Protection Act and expanding access to free Wi-Fi among a long list of ventures to support Jamaica's development. Watch this.
Enforcing legislations, reforming the energy sector, creating opportunities for youth development. Some of the works on the agenda of the Ministry of Science, Energy and Technology in 2016-2017.
In this legislative year, we will be tabling two important pieces of legislation, the Data Protection Act and the new ICT Act.
Amendments to the Data Protection Act will safeguard personal data and govern the collection, regulation, processing, use, and disclosure of certain information in physical or electronic form. In the meantime, the minister is in the process of creating a new ICT authority that will drive the information and communications technology operations of the government.
We are in the process of contracting a consulting firm to develop the process for transition to this new ICT authority. This process is expected to be completed in the next 18 to 24 months. We are also in the process of finalizing the recruitment process for a new CEO for eGov Jamaica.
In strengthening the ICT platform, government is also putting security measures in place to safeguard users.
Following the security audit with the support of CERT, which is the Cyber Incident Response Team, the JCF, the JDF, and a web security policy for the government is being developed, and this is expected to be completed within the next 6 months. In the meantime, efforts are currently underway to address vulnerabilities that were identified from the audit as immediate threats.
Still on technology, the Tablets in Schools program will roll out in September under a new format. Students will no longer be given the tablets. Instead, they will be issued to schools for use in class.
This new structure will see the distribution of over 17,000 tablets to over 1,000 infant and primary schools. Schools will adopt a class-set approach to the use of the tablets. This approach will allow us to implement greater security measures to curb access to inappropriate content.
And as part of government's plan to create a knowledge-based society, it is expanding its free public Wi-Fi service to 4 new locations. They bring to 6 the number of free access points on the island.
We are ensuring, Mr. Speaker, that every nook and cranny, we have connection. We are touching the lives of every corner, every single Jamaican. Now, I turn to the science portfolio. We have drafted the Science, Technology and Innovation Policy, which will guide us as to how we incorporate STI in unleashing the creative potential of our people, catalyzing development and sustainable prosperity, and empowering Jamaicans to excel in an evolving world.
Progress has been made since the announcement of the National Science and Technology Fund in 2016.
The fund has already started to do work. Its first task is to support the joint collaboration in science and technology between South Africa and Jamaica. We agreed to partner in conducting high-quality research with an emphasis in indigenous knowledge systems and water. As a matter of fact, $90 million Jamaican dollars is now available for Jamaica's scientific community over the next 3 years.
The money will be used to fund research and technology that have the greatest potential to create more jobs, new products, a cleaner environment, and safer communities. Government continues to make good on its target of achieving lower energy costs. Ground has been broken for the 190-megawatt Jamaica Public Service Power Plant in Old Harbour. The $330 million plant will facilitate the use of liquefied natural gas LNG.
This LNG powered plant, which will generate some 192.6 megawatts of electricity, represents the largest local investment ever in the local energy sector, totally financed by a local consortium.
Within the new financial year, changes will be made to the Government Electrical Inspectorate, the GEI. This is to enable a more efficient process of all applications, inspections, and licensing processes for electrical installations.
And as such, Mr. Speaker, a new regulatory agency called the Government Electrical Regulator is being established to ensure electrical safety, whether at the individual, corporate, and/or national level. Mr. Speaker, the GR will be guided by the Electricity Act, and the related regulations that are currently being finalized will provide for the outsourcing of inspections and certification of premises to be electrified to suitable qualified persons from the private sector.
The Ministry of Science, Energy and Technology, enabling an energy sector to meet the demands of the country's growing economy while advancing innovations in science and technology.
Epilepsy. It's an illness that's often misunderstood. Next, we put the spotlight on the management and treatment of what is commonly called fits.
What do Socrates, Theodore Roosevelt, Charles Dickens, Alfred Nobel, Prince, Lil Wayne, Elton John, Danny Glover, and Hugo Weaving all have in common? If you said they're all famous, that's not quite the answer I'm looking for. All these prominent figures are believed to have or had what many know as fits or seizures associated with epilepsy, one of the oldest and least understood medical conditions.
It is not dopey take you over, it is not spirits. We have these myths that we do need to dispel in Jamaica. Some people think it's contagious, and it is not contagious. You cannot catch epilepsy. Anyone, anytime can get epilepsy.
So, what is epilepsy? It's a disorder of the brain characterized by recurrent seizures, which are short periods of involuntary movements involving a part of the body, a partial or focal seizure, or the entire body, a generalized seizure. Our brains run on electricity, which is produced by cells called neurons. In some people, these neurons sometimes produce a sudden electrical burst or power surge, resulting in a seizure.
Epilepsy is a chronic disorder, just like asthma or diabetes. It's a disorder of the brain. And so when a patient has a seizure, they do have unusual behavior at the time of their seizure. But otherwise, they're usually quite normal. It's also not a mental illness. People with epilepsy are not crazy. It's a brain disorder, but it's not a mental illness.
The cause of epilepsy can be genetic,
meaning that you can be born with a genetic disorder that predisposes your brain to be abnormally wired, and that you are more likely to produce these epileptic discharges and have seizures recurrently. Sometimes you may have, when the baby is being formed in the first few months of their embryological life, you may have an abnormality happening with the brain formation.
Then, there are other conditions that can occur at any time during someone's life that can cause epilepsy.
Those conditions that are acquired would be those related to a physical injury to the brain or an infection in the brain, such as meningitis, which is an infection of the covering around the brain, or an encephalitis, which is an infection of the brain substance itself, as well as you may have stroke, decreased blood supply, nutrients going to the brain, also causing seizures and epilepsy.
Seizures do not always involve convulsions or jerking of the body. There are in fact over 20 different seizure types. Many are quite subtle, as in the case of 12-year-old Liana.
We found out when she was about 3 months old. It was something very subtle. We found out that she was just staring in one direction for probably a minute or two, keeping that stare.
For Marvin Fullerton, his experience was different.
I first found out in 1994, November 1994, when I was in technical high school. What I did was feeling some itching on my skin. I went to the school nurse, asked her what was wrong with me, and she told me that I need to change my bath soap. Right.
And what happened after that?
Well, I changed my bath soap and nothing really changed after. But it was January 4, 1995 when I had my first attack. And I woke up in my father's car going to hospital.
Even though he was soon diagnosed with epilepsy, Marvin was able to live a normal life for most of his years as a student.
I was able to go to school. I was put on simple medications such as Tegretol CR 200, no problem. It was easy taking it. It prevented me from having an attack, but my body was not having much problems at those times.
Marvin went on to attend the Vocational Training Development Institute, VTDI, and the University of Technology. He holds a diploma in architecture and construction management. But despite his academic achievements, he still has challenges gaining employment.
I'm not working right now because it was just the other day I was in the hospital, right? And I got an interview for a job. The interview was wonderful, but I was in the hospital, so the job somewhat got turned down. They found out about the situation and I got turned down.
Unfortunately, there are those who believe that persons with epilepsy cannot work or lead normal lives.
Most people, 70 to 80% of people with epilepsy can have their seizures controlled. It's the person you employ who you don't yet have their first seizure. Those are the ones that you should be worried about, because any of us can develop epilepsy for different reasons at any time.
If you believe someone is having a seizure, there are some things you should never do.
Do not put any objects in the mouth. Do not put a spoon to hold the tongue down. Do not bring scallion. Do not take a dirty sneaker and put over the face.
So then, what should you do?
You need to cushion their heads. Whether you have a cushion or a jacket, you can take off and make a cushion just to support the head so they don't damage themselves. You loosen, if it's a man with a tie, loosen his clothing so that he can get some air and he can relax. You turn the person on the side. Do not put them with their heads right back. Turn them on their side and the tongue will fall and any fluids of the mouth will drain out to the side. And I guarantee you, you cannot swallow your tongue. A seizure would take between 3 to 5 minutes. Now, if the seizure continues for more than 5 minutes, you should take that person to the hospital.
Anti-seizure medication is the most commonly used method to control seizures. Discounts are available for epilepsy patients who are registered with the National Health Fund. But there are side effects. Some persons experience weight gain, drowsiness, irritability, skin rashes, and blood platelet changes, among others, all of which require understanding from those around them. Then, there is also medical marijuana or medical cannabis.
It seems to have helped a number of, especially children with epilepsy that have been intractable, that is difficult to treat. But in Jamaica, we still need legislation in order to use it, and there's still a lot of research that needs to be done about the dosing of the CBD or cannabidiol to be used to treat epilepsy, but it surely seems as though it may be promising.
Research has also shown that diets such as a ketogenic diet can help control the onset of epileptic seizures. The Jamaican Association for Epilepsy offers support for persons with epilepsy and their families. The association also holds regular meetings with members at the Andrews Hospital to share experiences and discuss concerns. They can be contacted at telephone 968-8274 or email jaepilepsy@gmail.com.
This is where the magazine closes for today, but there's a lot more to see on our webpage, jis.gov.jm. There you may find more information on the Prime Minister's activities as well as the projects of all the ministries of government. For more television features, visit our YouTube channel. We're also on other social media sites, or you may download our app from the Google Play Store to stay informed while you're on the go. On behalf of the entire production team, I'm Theodore Henry. Do have a wonderful evening.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.